Talk to us about the missing links and what can be done to fix them. Why do we have this kind of development in Africa in spite of our religious disposition?
Well, one of the greatest problems that we are facing is that we have embraced Christianity as a religion, but not as a way of life. So what we are doing is that we are going to church that's become like a culture for us now. And we go to church, and then when we go to church, we pray to God that God should come and help us resolve our problems. Well, that is why I wrote my book that you people probably have heard about, that only God can save Nigeria. No, what a myth. It's a myth to think that God will come and save Nigeria. I mean, people who don't believe in Christianity, like Saudi Arabia, Arab Emirates, Kuwait, all those are Muslim countries. They didn't wait, just pray. In America, England, Germany, France, they didn't wait for God to come and build their countries for them. They used the principles of the Bible, the principles of hard work, the principles of dignity of labor, the principles of integrity, the principles of faithfulness in little, the principles of productivity, principles of process of production. And all those principles are from the Bible. They took those principles and build them as principles to engineer them to build a better society. But what we have done is that we have taught our people to pray and to wait on God to come and do for them what they could do for themselves. It's a tragedy, actually. Religion has become our hindrances, a hurdle in our development. Unfortunately, religion is supposed to propel us, supposed to be our propeller, but it has become a hurdle in the path of our growth.
In reference to your book, The Value-Driven Nation, you are the author of that book. Taking a clue from the lessons and some of your submissions as regards the value-driven nation, I would like you to talk about how Nigeria, and by extension Africa, be a value-driven nation, and by extension Africa being a value-driven continent.
Very good question. Number one, for us to be value-driven, we must realize that values are cultivated in the homes. So government needs to develop a program, a national program that will encourage parents to teach their children the right value systems. And we have to even give them a list of the values that we want to inculcate into our family, into our children, into our future, into our society as a fabric. That's number one. We must, teach and intentionally encourage parents to inculcate values in their children. Number two, for us to be a value-driven country, we must know that our educational system must not just teach physics and biology and geography. We must begin to teach in our schools values. We must go back to the days where we used to have civic education or ethics. In European, they call it ethics. We must begin to teach ethics and begin to, as a nation, we must have a list of value systems that we want to be the basis of our society and of our country as a whole. It is values that develop nations. And until we come up with those lists of values, I have developed such lists of values. In my book, Nigeria and the Leadership Questions, I enumerated all those values that Nigerians need for development. But also, apart from the schools, apart from educational system, apart from the family, another institution that is responsible for formation of values are the religious organizations. Our pulpits are responsible either for propagating the right values or the wrong values. There are some mosques, for example, where people are in other parts of the world, where people have used pulpit to propagate jihad. And see what people are doing. People began to go and kill themselves, and others. That is the power of pulpit. But if we are going to use that same pulpit to propagate the right values, we will be able to build a wonderful country, just like the Europeans did. In Europe, it is what they call the Protestant ethics that are responsible for the European or modern civilization that we are enjoying today. The Protestants, people like Martin Luther, people like all the other reformers, they embraced values of the Bible and brought them out of the four walls of the church and propagated them in the society as a whole. And those values that are called Protestant values are responsible for what the Europe that we see today. So the foundation is very important. If the foundation we give to ourselves, our children, our families, from home and from our native nations are good, just like I referred back to the foundation of hard work that was given to me by my grandmother, it propelled me in future to success. And it never left me because it was inculcated into my system from childhood. So whatever we put into our into the foundation of character building of our children, of the society as a whole, will stand the test of time against the pressure that is coming from outside. But also, some of the values that are coming from outside are not negative always. Some of them are positive. So we should also learn to derive from the developed countries what are some of these principles that have helped them to grow and to become so developed, so that we will be able to embrace some of those as well.
As a social reformer, an author of many books, and someone who has traveled across the globe, I would like you to do a comparison of the value system in Africa to that of Europe and other continents, and because you talked about the value system, I would like you to do a comparison and let's see what Africa can do better.
Okay, for example, let me say that is a very good question, and I think this illustration will help me to pass my message across. The Bible says that righteousness or doing things right exalts a nation. Whenever you see a nation where people have been taught to obey rules and laws and principles, when they have been taught to obey rules, those nations are always exalted. When people have been taught to do things right, either they are Christians or non-Christians, believers or non-believers, just learn to do things right, then those nations will always be developed. For example, there is a famous pastor in Nigeria that everybody knows. If I mention his name, everybody will know him. And he is the one who told this story. Maybe some people have heard this story. He was traveling from Nigeria to England through the Heathrow airport. And when he got to the airport, he was stopped. And because he had a Nigerian passport, so they were saying, "What are you coming to do in Great Britain today?" And he told them, "I'm a pastor. I'm coming to see my churches here." And they said, "Okay, if you're a pastor, yesterday was Sunday. What did you preach? What was the topic that you preached yesterday?" And he said, "Oh, I can tell you, but I'm a pastor. I cannot lie." Then the custom officer said, "Oh, you are a pastor? Yes. You cannot lie because of that?" "Yes, I'm a pastor. I cannot lie." So the woman said, it was a woman, said, "So you are telling me because you are a pastor, you will not lie or you cannot lie. So naturally in your country where you are coming from, it means if you are not a pastor, then, you could lie. Or people who are not pastors, because they are connected to God, they could lie. But in this country that you are coming to, you don't need to be a pastor not to lie. Everybody doesn't, you are not supposed to lie. People don't lie here. And this is the difference. If you come to Africa, for example, you will see so many people who go to church. A large number of people who call themselves believers, but they could lie, they could steal, all the corrupt people we are talking about, they'll go to one church or mosque or the other. But in Europe, you don't see people going to church so much. They might not go to church, but it has been imbibed in their society. Their society has been formed in such a way that truth, honesty, integrity has become part of the fabric of their country. So if we could succeed in intentionally teaching our people, everybody out of religion, that honesty is the best policy, that truth, love for truth is the path to righteousness and to elevation, then we will begin to see the rapid growth that we never anticipated. Because right now, no matter what the government does, somebody is stealing it. Even I heard that the railways that the government is building, some people are going to steal the rails. So what can you do now? Because of the lack of that vital quality, which is truth, love for truth, integrity, and righteousness in our people. Our people must learn to do things right, even if they don't go to church.
As a follow-up to that question, talking about the concept and disposition and orientation of Africans to timing or time compared to the Western world, you know, in this part, there's a word you talk about African time or African timing. Talk to us about why this is significant, the orientation, the attitude towards time and timing. What's our conception about the issue of timing as far as African continent compared to the Western world?
You are so either you've read some of my books or something, because this question you are asking, I wrote a whole book about it, and it's called How to Make Every African Country a First World Country. And in that book, I made calculations of how Nigeria's GDP could be doubled or tripled just by doing one thing, by abiding by time. Because, for example, if you take one person, let's say an average worker is making $10 an hour, just as an example, I don't know what they're making, let's say $10 an hour. And we averagely in Nigeria, everybody comes late to everywhere, at least maybe 1 hour. 1 hour goes late, 1 hour to school, goes late, 1 hour to work, goes within the whole day, 24 hours a day, our people could wait 3 hours just coming late. Now multiply that 3 hours by if 3 hours is $10, just make it it means $30 in a day, $30 into 26 days in a month, and then multiply that by 275 days in a year. You know, by the time I made all the calculations, the Nigeria economy, just by dealing with lateness alone, could be a $1 trillion economy. That is the importance of work, because of time. Because time is not just money. Time is life. Time is productivity. Time, some people are producing, something in every hour. Some people are producing something in every minute, whereas we are wasting an hour going late to a place of production. And you are very correct. It's something that we must really declare war against in Africa.